I asked 100 FPL experts to see their Game Week 1 teams to see what we can learn. This is the most important FPL video you will watch this preseason. It's time to get our geek on. Welcome to FPL Mate, my name is Dan. Today, yes, I have gathered 100 FPL drafts from 100 expert managers, and I have manually inputted every single player we saw in those teams, as well as asking some other key questions so we can find out which are the most popular picks, who are they captaining, what is the chip strategy looking like, and much, much more. We're going to go through all of that data in today's video to see what trends we can identify to help us with our own teams, which players are the experts picking, and which experts maybe are avoiding certain popular players too. We're going to find all of that out today, guys. A massive shout out to the 100 experts who helped us out with the data this week. Guys, they are all verified FPL experts with some amazing ranks. We've got several people in here who have finished inside the top 100, top 1000. Crazy stuff. And guys, of course, if you do want to join the FPL Experts private chat server, then you can join this channel as a member at the starting 11 tier or above. You will get access to the experts Discord server, guys. Verified experts only. You guys are going to be able to ask your FPL questions to our experts in that chat. Make sure you join as a member if you want to get involved with that one. So I think the best place to start is to go position by position and look through who are the most popular picks in each position, starting off with goalkeepers. And we can see that Sanchez is the most popular goalkeeper among expert drafts. He is in 55% of the top managers teams right now. So massive props to the Chelsea goalkeeper. Over half of our experts going for him. After that, we see Sells at 20% and Kelleher, who may have an injury issue, down at 13%. So he has dropped down quite a little bit. Other goalkeepers to consider, maybe Petrovic, maybe Verbruggen, a little bit of love for Areola. But really outside of that, Jose Sa, Pickford, Vicario, there's not a huge amount to pick from here outside of the big three at the top. Sanchez, Sells and Kelleher seem to be far and away the most popular goalkeepers for experts this season. Going into defenders next, and maybe there is a surprise at the top of this list. It is Nico Williams, the Nottingham Forest left back. He is the guy at the top of this list. And I have to say, I know some people are a little bit worried about Williams and his game time now that Forest are trying to sign a new left back. But Williams, it seems like he is more nailed on than Aina. He can play right back, he can play left back. So even a backup left back coming to the club is probably not going to affect Williams too much. He still will be the main starting fullback for Forest. That is what he has been. And as such, he is another player who finds himself in over 50% of our experts teams. Absolutely crazy stuff. At 5 million for a Nottingham Forest defender with these great fixtures, he is definitely a player to look out for. He also does really well for defensive contributions. He is the best fullback in the entire game for defensive contribution points as well, which is really nice to know. And he actually gets more of those defensive contribution points in the easier games as well. So that is a big thing to think about with Forest having so many nice games in the opening part of the FPL season. After that, we've got Van der Ven at 47%, 4.5 million for a nice cheap Spurs defender, expected to be much more defensively solid under new management in Thomas Frank. And after that, we see our first premium defender on this list, Virgil van Dijk at 44% selected. The 6 million man is the only real strong 6 million defender on this list. All of the other 6 million defenders are pretty low owned actually among experts. Generally speaking, our experts seem to be picking more up some maybe slightly cheaper defenders, your 4.5s, your 5.5s here. You can go down the list a little bit further. We see Konsa and Tarkowski joint at 26% owned each, followed by Murillo and Richards just behind at 25%. Big shout out to Richards here, by the way, at Crystal Palace. Not many people talking about him in the overall player base, but he is a really popular pick among experts, with a quarter of them having him in their team right now. Despite that opening game against Chelsea, he makes a really nice bench defender to maybe bench for the first week and then can cover your Spurs fixtures, can cover your Nottingham Forest fixtures. When those guys have bad fixtures, Crystal Palace defenders have good fixtures. And that's why Richards is so high up on this list. He's also much better for defensive contributions than someone like Mark Gay at a similar price. So Therefore, Richard seems to be a bit of a hidden gem. We are, of course, going to be talking about some hidden gems later on in the video as well, so make sure you stay tuned for that one. We're going to have a look at some of these other defenders. Juve at West Ham is probably the next defender who we really want to strongly consider here. After that, the ownership does drop down a little bit. Milenkovic, Munoz at 17%, to Kuiper at 16%, Pedro Porro 15%, Wan-Bissaka 14%, Anderson, Cucurella, Dorgu, and Lacroix much lower down the list. So interestingly, Wan-Bissaka is far more popular in the overall player base compared to Juve, but among experts, they seem to prefer Juve to a Wan-Bissaka there. So that is definitely something to make a note of as well. And I would say generally, guys, if you have a defender in your squad right now who isn't in this list that you are seeing in front of you guys, and the same really for every position, if you don't see a player who is in your team right now on one of these lists, you probably do need to question them a little bit, because if they're not popular among the best of the best FPL managers, maybe that is an indication that they shouldn't necessarily be in your team. Of course, you've got to go with your gut, and if you strongly believe in a player, you absolutely should pick them. But looking for guidelines from the experts, there's a lot of defenders I know a lot of people have that are very much not on this list. So why aren't the experts picking them? That's what we have to ask ourselves, because, you know, these are people who regularly get the top ranks in FPL. They know what they're doing, so therefore I trust them. I have to say, I trust them. So I'm not really looking to pick any players really that aren't featured in today's video. So let's do midfielders next, and we'll start off with Cole Palmer at the top. And we got some big numbers here. Cole Palmer is 91% selected among experts, and I think at those kind of numbers, you would have to say that he is pretty much essential. So maybe making a squad without Palmer is definitely something you have got to be thinking about right now. And in fact, really, the majority of those going without Palmer, the only reason they don't have Palmer is because maybe they've got a team with both Haaland and Salah in and can't afford to get Palmer in their squad as well. So that's a big reason why some people haven't picked Palmer. But if you're not going for both Salah and Haaland, it seems pretty obvious you must pick Cole Palmer for your FPL team. These are huge numbers. Getting 91% of people to agree on something is very, very difficult to do. So the fact we've been able to do that among such good FPL managers really does say a lot. After that, we see Mo Salah. So yes, Cole Palmer is actually more popular than Mo Salah among experts for this new season. Salah just 2% behind at 89%. But after that, there is a big drop off, and it seems like the midfield position is maybe the position where our experts are maybe disagreeing a little bit more with each other. It seems there's loads of different options. Now we can pick midfielders based on defensive contribution points, as well as those goals and assists. It's opened up a whole new amount of midfielders for us, and therefore our options to choose have been blown wide open. But there's actually a few players on this list who are going to be good for defensive contributions. Anderson at Nottingham Forest is a good example of that. The 5.5 million man is selected by 41% of our experts, so a nice cheap enabler there. And for 6.5 million midfielders, Ndai is another player more than capable of getting defensive contribution points. Plus, he's on penalties, nailed on as a star man for this Everton side. He could be really nice as well. Florian Wirtz is actually at 35% in expert teams, so in about a third. He's definitely very, very popular indeed. And Bruno Fernandes is another really popular player, another player who has set pieces, defensive contribution points he will get as well, which is pretty nice. Then we start to see a bit of a drop off. Rodgers, Gakpo, Kudus, Reinders, Dewsbury Hall, Saka, Arias, and Sarr all towards the bottom. But there's some quite nice differentials here. Arias and Sarr, 9% selected by experts, and really barely any of the overall player base are going for these kind of players. So there are some opportunities here to go for someone a little bit different on this list as well. And once again, if your midfielder is not on this list, I don't know, guys, maybe there is some worry, maybe there is some concern that we have to have right now. We're certainly not seeing many premiums outside of Palmer and Salah really anywhere near the top of this list. We've got Bruno here, but there's no Mbermo, there's no Cunha, even Saka is pretty low, there's no Foden here as well. So yeah, maybe that is some food for thought there as we look towards how to build our FPL squads for Game Week 1. And here's an extra fact for you guys. Did you know that the majority of FPL experts are using Fantasy Football Hub to help improve their game? Not only do they have their fantastic My Team tool, which helps you with the data and the predictions that you need to make FPL decisions and plan them out into the future, but their articles and team reveals from the very best FPL managers are also all on their website and app. Their Opta-Stats tool and player comparison tools are also essential if you are serious about your FPL. So if you want to be an FPL expert to claim the 50% off deal plus your money back if you don't win your mini league by clicking the link in the description. This offer is for a limited time only. This is the best time to purchase Fantasy Football Hub subscription. So click the link in that description, guys, and become an FPL expert yourself. And now it's time for the forwards before we have a look at some other topics that our experts are really contending with this season. So let's see here. Watkins, first of all, 73%. So he is one of the most selected players among experts, 73%. And I believe his overall ownership is something like 18%, something like that. So Watkins seems to be a really underappreciated player in the world of FPL, but the experts seem to love him. So it seems like this is going to be a really, really good opportunity to get ahead of the crowd and get up there with the rest of the experts with a Watkins pick, considering he is so reliable every single season. He seems like the perfect pick. But after that, it becomes much more difficult to pick that second forward. And our second most popular forward is actually down at 32% owned, and that is Joao Pedro, which is pretty interesting at 7.5 million. Obviously, he's been in fantastic form in friendlies and in the Club World Cup for Chelsea, so looks like he is going to be their main man going forward. Jared Bowen and Strand Larson also see a decent chunk of ownership, 23% each for both of those guys. Bowen a little more expensive, but Strand Larson for Wolves at 6.5 million, the Wolves central striker, could be a real nice pickup for the new season. Haaland, because he's so expensive and it's difficult to own both him and Salah, only sees 17% selected among our experts, guys. But that is still a decent number. That is not nothing. So we do still definitely need to consider Haaland if we can fit him into our teams. And if possible, maybe we could really cook with him. Evanilson and Fulkrug are also above 10% owned among our experts. So these could be, again, nicer, cheaper forwards to go for. And after that, we're really looking at some differentials among the experts, at least. Gyökeres nowhere near as popular among experts as he is in the overall player base. Welbeck not seeing too much love either. Wood, Thiago, Solanke, who could potentially be injured, as well as Ekitike, Matata, and Perot, all seeing a little bit of love, but really nothing strong. No real strong trends towards any of these players. And of course, guys, there are so many other forwards that are not even on this list. You do not want to touch them, according to our experts. So let's check out some bench options now. Players who are 4 million if they are goalkeepers or defenders, or 4.5 million if they are midfielders and forwards. So first of all, goalkeepers. And we have Dubravka at 4 million, 94% selected among our experts. Absolutely ludicrously crazy numbers. He seems like the most surefire bet for your backup goalkeeper that you'll ever need. The new Burnley goalkeeper is going to hopefully be able to keep the odd clean sheet here and there, but most importantly, be able to cover your main goalkeeper, maybe in some difficult fixtures, maybe if they get injured or red carded. You know, you have Dubravka to fall back on, and yet you don't have to spend any money in order to have him in your team. So it seems like an absolute no-brainer. There is a couple of other goalkeepers that our experts are picking. There's one person went for Darlow, one went for Kinski, one went for Valdemarson to maybe play backup for Kelleher. But generally speaking, Dubravka seems super, super obvious as a goalkeeper to pick as your backup on your bench. We've got some midfielders here as well. Two people going for King at Fulham. He seems like, probably in fairness, the best 4.5 million midfielder to go for at this point. He could get the odd start for Fulham as we go through the season. He's a real nice, hot, young prospect. Pause. Devaney is also another player who can see some game time for Crystal Palace. So these are kind of the 4.5 million midfielders you might be looking at. And as for forwards, Mark Yu seems really obvious. If you are planning on starting the season with a 4.5 million forward, Mark Yu is pretty much obviously the guy to go for. By far the most match time game time minutes potential of any 4.5 million forward in the entire game. Krupa Jr. is also there, maybe a player, and there's a guy called Sheriff, apparently. One person put him in their team. Don't really know why. Maybe because his name sounds kind of cool. Little cowboy sheriff. Why not? I want to go through some of these defenders as well, because actually this is where we see a bit more diversity in the 4 million defenders that our experts are picking. So Steve, 61% selected there, so pretty high actually. That's quite a big amount of our experts going for the same 4 million defender. So maybe that's a pretty simple one to go for in your squad. There are some other options here. Goodmanson at Leeds is at 8%. We've got Reynaldo at Sunderland, 7%. Rodon, 6%. Potts, Hill, and then some 1%ers. Hartman, Heaven, Araujo, and Silt as well. But generally, these players are not going to be starting on your main team very often. They're mainly going to be used just for your bench. And that's why you want to spend as little money as possible on them. And we're going to find out exactly how much our experts are spending on bench players as well. Are they upgrading their 4 million and 4.5 million players, or are they keeping it really, really cheap? That will be coming up. So just to give a summary here, guys, before we move on to some other really interesting questions and finding some other really interesting answers, the top 10 picks among experts are as follows. First is Dubravka, followed by Palmer, Salah, Watkins, Esteve, Sanchez, Nico Williams, Mark Yu, Van de Ven, and Virgil van Dijk. So those are the top 10 most popular picks among experts. How many of these 10 have you got in your squads? Do please let me know. Be very curious to find out how aligned you are with the experts. And this, I think, is my favorite part of the video, where we have a look and compare the expert picks to maybe the overall player base, what kind of players they're picking. And what we can see immediately is that there are certain players who are massively popular among the overall player base, but our experts are barely picking them at all. And we'll start off with a couple of premium 6 million defenders, Frimpong and Ait Nori, 3% and 4% selected by our experts respectively. I think the general opinion is that because of defensive contribution points, there's a lot of value to be had in some of the cheaper defenders now. So therefore, it might not actually be worth spending a lot of money on the more expensive defenders. Yes, they might get attacking returns, but they won't get defensive contribution points, and there's a good chance a lot of the cheaper defenders actually match them. That seems to be the presiding opinion among experts right now, and we're seeing that evidence based on the players that they are picking right now. So yeah, I'm not saying Frimpong and Ait Nori are players you should avoid, but maybe a second thought needs to be had among some of these guys. Isak, not selected by any of our experts, obviously because his situation, he's not even training with Newcastle at the moment. His future is kind of in the air, unknown. So none of our experts are going to pick a player like that. There has to be something to be said about Arsenal defenders. We've got 2% going for Gabriel. No one's going for Raya. No one's going for Saliba. No one's going for Timber or Lewis Skelly or Calafiori. Arsenal defenders are being massively neglected by our experts. And again, it comes back to defensive contribution points. Arsenal defenders basically don't get any, and their fixtures are not particularly good either. So there's a lot of concern around Arsenal defenders, whether they'll have a good season this year compared to maybe previous seasons. Gvardiol, 0% selected there. There's maybe some concerns about his fitness right now. Nobody's going for Aina other than one person. The other Forest defenders offer so much more in terms of attack, bonus points, defensive contributions, and Aina, unfortunately, is just a little far behind in so many metrics that he's barely worth picking, and that's what our experts have agreed upon. Only one person going for Mbermo here. We spoke about Saliba, and Beto, just 1% selected on him as well, because it does seem like there's a good chance Tierno Barry might be the new starting striker for Everton, and it could happen a little bit sooner than we think. So maybe Beto, not someone to consider. So these are the kind of players who are maybe overrated in the overall player base, and our experts think they are overrated, certainly. But let's do the inverse. Which players are hardly being spoken about, hardly being picked at all by the overall player base, but our experts love? Now, obviously, we mentioned Watkins, but I think Watkins is a little bit popular, at least in the overall player base. These players are completely neglected. So, of course, Williams, we've spoken about in this video already, just 6.3% selected among the overall player base, but an insane over half of our experts have him in their team. Another Forest player, 5.5% selected Anderson. He is selected by 41% of experts. Then we've got Tarkovsky. Huge difference there. Murillo as well, another Forest player again. Richards is probably the standout guy here because he's only selected by 1.1% of the overall player base. And that actually has gone up over the last week or so as well, because that was at 0.3%, I think, when I first put him in my team. But people are coming on board with the Richards hype train, but our experts are way ahead of it. 25% selected there. Juve, very popular. We mentioned much more popular than Wan-Bissaka. Strand Larson, 23% for experts, just 5% overall. Gakpo, our experts like. Evan Nilsson, our experts like. And Dewsbury Hall at Everton as well. Another player our experts like for the overall player base. Just hasn't got on board with yet for whatever reason. But hopefully, guys, for having seen this video, you might have identified a few real key differentials that you could have in your team. You know, picking some of these players, your mates in your mini league are going to be like, what? Who is that guy? Why have you picked him for your FPL team? And you can say, well, you know, I had a feeling that the experts kind of might like a pick like this. So you have the information now. These are the difference makers in your mini league, and they could be really effective too. Okay, we'll keep this one brief because I know it's probably not the most interesting topic, but I also had a look and saw which formations our experts were using. 57% are going for a 3-5-2 formation this season. And I think a lot of that is to do with the fact that there is not as many forwards to choose from, it seems, this season. Forwards are slightly less desirable. That's the kind of trend we're seeing. We also see a lot of 3-4-3 formations as well. Around 32% of our experts are going to be using that formation. The only other two formations being used were the 4-5-1 and the 4-4-2, both at 6% and 5% respectively. So there are kind of alternative kind of formations you could use, but it seems 3-5-2 is the most popular one. And from all of the data, guys, 1,500 players manually inputted into a spreadsheet to see what I could find out. I also managed to find out a few other bits and bobs as well. So here we go, guys. From looking through this squad, this is what I found out. So the Salah versus Haaland debate is heavily in Salah's favor. 81% of our experts are going for Salah for the start of the new season, with just 8% going for Haaland, but no Salah. We've got 8% going for both of these forwards, attackers, whatever you want to call them, and 3% going for neither of them. So it does seem like you've probably got to have at least one of these two, with the majority of our experts just picking one, and that one guy being Salah. So that seems to be the trend in the Salah versus Haaland debate. Pick just one, make that one Salah. Don't go without neither, with neither, because only 3% of our experts are going with neither. And obviously, that is such a small trend. We probably don't want to use that as kind of advice for our FPL teams. We're looking for trends really here. We've got another strong trend in the Palmer versus Saka debate. So obviously, this does not add up to 100%. So, you know, you'll have to excuse me there a little bit, but in 91% of the squads that I looked at, Palmer was in the team, and only in 11% of the squads I looked at, Saka was in the team. So there is a strong trend towards Palmer over Saka. So if you are having that debate with yourself right now, you probably do need to think, okay, yeah, the experts probably prefer Palmer. Maybe I should go for Palmer instead of Saka if you can only have one. Maybe it's different if you can afford to have both of them in your team. I had a look at 6 to 7 million midfielders. So those kind of mid-price midfielders, who were the most popular ones? And Dye was the most popular one at 36% selected. 21% for Rodgers, 16% for Kudus, and 9% for Sarr, and just 6% for Tielemans there. So we've got a little bit of a few different options there. But again, strong trends towards certain players among experts if you're looking within this specific price bracket for a new player for your FPL team. So yeah, again, really good information there. We also had a look at money on the bench. So the way I kind of defined this was how many, above the minimum priced players were there on each of our expert managers' bench. So, for example, if they're a 4, that means that they have upgraded all 4 of their bench players. So their goalkeepers at least 4.5 million, their defenders were at least 4.5 million, and their midfielders and forwards were at least 5 million. So that's how I kind of worked it out. Just 1% of our experts had upgraded every player on their bench, with actually a little bit more, 11% have upgraded 3%. But it's upgraded 3%, upgraded 3 of their players. But going to just 2 upgrades, we're all the way up to 33%. And then those managers who had only upgraded one of the players on their bench was a huge 48%, and 7% had upgraded none of them. So baseline price players in their entire bench. So that is something that maybe we can learn from. Maybe this is, again, a season where we don't want to spend too much money on our bench. Maybe the only exception for that is if you are planning a bench boost in Game Week 1 or Game Week 2. But are our experts planning a bench boost in Game Week 1 or Game Week 2? Well, yes, actually, some of them are. 17% of our experts are planning to use their first bench boost in Game Week 1, with 8% planning on using it in Game Week 2 instead. So that is pretty interesting stuff here, guys. Definitely that, again, this is something we can maybe learn from. There is definitely more of an appeal in Game Week 1, seemingly, which did surprise me a little bit. But the majority of our experts are either planning to use their bench boost in a future week, or they haven't decided when exactly they're going to use it yet. So it is going to be maybe a case where wait and see what happens, let the season unfold a little bit, and figure out from there when the bench boost is going to be viable, depending on how the season starts to play out, because there's always a few surprises in the Premier League, and it might be wise to kind of get those surprises out the way first. And finally, the rotating goalkeepers. So by this, I mean 2 goalkeepers, and both of them have been upgraded above the 4 million price tag. So only 3% of our experts had upgraded both of their goalkeepers in their squad. So this is going to be a season where it seems, because 97% of our experts are doing it, that you just upgrade one of your goalkeeper and your other goalkeeper stays as the flat baseline price of 4 million. So one upgraded goalkeeper, one 4 million goalkeeper. And who's that? What 4 million goalkeeper going to be? Well, let's be honest, it is probably going to be Dubravka based on what we've seen today. Next, we do need to have a look at captains for Game Week 1 as well. Don't worry, I got the captain data as well from all of these drafts that I had a look at and combed through over the course of the last 2 days. And Salah, yeah, no surprise here. He is the most popular Game Week 1 captain, 87% against Bournemouth at home. Of course, Bournemouth are going to be lacking a few of their defenders from last season. Maybe trying to gel in a new team is going to be pretty bad news for them in Game Week 1 against the best attack in the league. And of course, Liverpool and Salah are going to make the most of that opportunity. So figuring that we're going to get a big score here, a lot of the predictive models and the betting markets are putting Liverpool versus Bournemouth as the highest scoring game, or the highest scoring team being Liverpool during this first game week. So that's why he is so popular. But we do have Haaland at 8%, and it seems like a lot of those who are picking Haaland are also choosing to captain him as well against Wolves, which is pretty interesting. But don't write off Bowen. He's 2% captained against Sunderland away, which is a really nice fixture for him. Palmer is also at 2% against Crystal Palace, and just one of our experts going for Ollie Watkins against Newcastle as their Game Week 1 captain. But of course, that is not a trend, so we are probably not going to take that as an advice. So basically, guys, if you are figuring which captain should I pick for Game Week 1, it seems pretty obvious that our experts are suggesting let's go for Salah. But guys, that is pretty much most of what I wanted to talk about today. But I do want to actually build an FPL team using all of the data, everything I've learned from, to try and build the perfect expert team, which the experts all agree is the best possible combination of players for Game Week 1 and beyond. So if you would like to see that, you don't need to leave a comment, just drop a like, and that will tell me that, this video was good, you appreciate the work that was put into this video, and you would like to see a little bit more. Just leave a like, and that would be massively appreciated. If we could go for 2,000 likes on this video, I will put out the expert perfect draft, building it from all of the data we gathered today. Don't forget to become an expert yourself by clicking the Fantasy Football Hub link at the top of the description. Drop a like if you enjoyed this one, subscribe if you are looking forward to the next experts video, or if you want to follow along with the experts every week throughout the season. And until next time, I will see you later, mates. Bye-bye.